Alright, you guys. Um, I have no idea why I feel like the need to do this video right now because, I am 100% sick. I don't know if it's the flu or if it's COVID. I don't know what it is, but I am 100% sick. And my camera, I don't know why my son broke my tripod, so it's like that, so I'm sorry. Um, Let me see if I can fix it. Something, do something, whatever. Y'all gonna be looking at the screen like this, but it's okay. um, Let me see. So this is part two the from the story of how I caught my first felony at 19, and the DEA raided my apartment. Um, if you haven't seen that video, you can go watch it if you want to. I'd appreciate it if you watch it, but it'd probably make more sense if you did. Um, this is what happened after me and my ex were both driven to the county jail. After we were both, and he had told me already that he had woken up and the detectives knocked at the door and he didn't answer. He just went back to sleep, just happily just went back and laid in bed and didn't happen to tell me hey, police are at the door, and then we get the door kicked in. Anyways, when we make it to county jail, I'm freaking out because the police tell me we're cleaning the streets, we're getting rid of everybody that's selling drugs. This When you get out, which will be in 20 years, he says some crazy number. He's like, the streets will be ridden of all drug dealers. And I was a bratty teenager, especially in my addiction. Like, I was not it. It was not it because I thought I was had magical powers because of heroin. It made me feel like I was the shit, and I was not the shit. If you look at my pictures, I was not the shit. But anyways, they're like, we're gonna hang you, we're gonna get you charged with all these charges, this and that, because what we found out was one of the people that my ex talked to and was dealing with, snitched on us, had gotten caught, and we figured out who it was, not because of court or the paperwork, but because I remember the phone calls he kept calling that day. He kept calling that morning. It was 5 o'clock in the morning whenever the police, I don't know why I still have this on. It was 5 something in the morning when the police kicked in our door. So why are you calling me? I know people want their fix at any hours, but he was adamant, are y'all okay, this and that, wanting to know what was going on. How do you know that anything's going on? It was kind of weird. So we've realized who it was, but they were trying to get me with a lot of time. They were trying to get me for selling. They were trying to get me for all kinds of stuff. And when we get to jail, I make it to booking. I got changed out. Right after I got changed out, my mother somebody bonded me out. It was my mother. And I get bonded out, so I get to go change right back. Right after I get changed into the county jail clothes, and strip searched and everything, I get to change back into my regular clothes and get bonded out, which she probably should have let me sit in there for a while, but she didn't. I got to get bonded out, and it's crazy because I forget some things because it was a pretty traumatic experience, so I forget some of the things. I forget even I think she did let me sit in there for a few days. Oh no, that was not that time. That was another time I went to jail. But that time she took me out quickly. It was my first time getting a big charge and everything, so she was freaking out for me. My mom was in the lifestyle too, so she knew it was serious, you know. And she bonded me out. She's like, don't worry, you're gonna pay me back and everything. And then whenever I get out, the first thing I do is, all that was on my mind was, I need to get my baby daddy out. I need to get him out. My ex. This is my first son's father. I'm like, I need to get him out. So I sell my mom my car, my vehicle. I sell it to her because his bond was like $5,000. I sell her the car and I start selling more. Start selling more drugs because I needed the money, you know? And finally I come up with enough money to bond him out, and then I started making payments for his bond because he kept calling me. It took me over, I think it was like 2 days it took me to come up with the bond money, because the police had seized all of my money that I had. The police seized. I think it was like 10,000 in cash on me, which is not much, but it is much because after a certain amount it's fed, you know. Well, I had, all my money was seized, everything was seized. I didn't have any drugs on me because I would sell all my drugs before I went to bed. You know, before I went to sleep, before I laid my head on the pillow, I'd sell everything. That's why whenever they kicked in my door, I only had $20 worth of heroin on a plate for my use, for my personal use, for me to wake, when I wake up in the morning, that would be my fix. And then I'd go to the plug and then re-up, buy whatever I needed to buy to sell, you know. And so all of that was gone. I had to come up with the money. He was like, I don't care what you have to do. You need to get me out now. I don't want to wake up in here again. I don't want to wake up to another breakfast in here. So I got him out in the middle of the night. It was 10 o'clock at night. He went walking to McDonald's. He didn't even wait outside for me. He went walking to the McDonald's down the street, and I picked him up. And whenever we started going to court, which you that's very surprising. I'm surprised I even went to court, but I had to go to court because I had my baby and I was going through a CPS case and everything already. I went to court. My mother was forcing me to go to court too, telling me I need to like suffer the consequences of my actions, you know, I have to deal with it and not be on the run. But I go to court, I make my baby daddy go to court too because my name was on his bond. And so I make him go to court too. So we're both going to court at the same time. We have a court-appointed lawyer. And that's when we find out for sure that there was a snitch. Somebody that snitched on us. And the district attorney was like, the people that were prosecuting us, they were trying to make a deal with us. And at first, my lawyer was like, oh, you just need to sign for 10 years probation and get it done, you know? I was like, no, wait, you're crazy. Like, all they found on me was $20 worth of dope. It was not bagged. It was not, so it's just a possession charge. That's it. And it's like she was working with them. She was working with them. She wasn't working for me. Like, she wasn't trying to help me, you know? And it was weird. And my baby daddy had already had a lot of experience. Like, he had already been in jail and everything. He already knew how it went, that you can plead back and forth, like come to an agreement and come. So he kept telling my lawyer, he's like, no, she's not gonna accept that. Go back and tell them this is what she wants. And they try to scare me, and they're like, well, we're gonna take it to trial. We're gonna take it to trial, and you're gonna face up to 20 years in prison. I was like, for my first charge for just that, they're like, yeah, because you live close to a school, it's in a drug-free zone. And I found out that's only a 2 to 10. That was only a 2 to 10. And maximum 10 years. Minimum is 2 years in TDC. And so they were trying to scare me and everything. And finally, I'm like, you know what? We're going to take it to trial. And then when the lawyer comes back, she's like, no, they don't want to take it to trial. They said, what do you want? You know, for us, I knew something was up then. I knew something was really up whenever they said they did not want to take it to trial. I was like, what? Because at first they were like, we have all this evidence against you, and it's a smack, you know, like it's a case closed. Like, we know everything. We have the snitch on you, all this stuff. Come to find out that the guy that snitched on us, he did not want to go to trial. He didn't want to testify on the stand that he was buying drugs from me and that he sold the gun to my ex. Like, he didn't want to do all that on the stand because he knew that we were from the streets and that it was going to get back to the streets. Right now, his name is not in the paperwork. His name is not in the paperwork because there's no trial yet. You know, there's no court, like there's no trial. So his name is not right now. He's just informant. That's all he is. Once he shows his face in trial, then it becomes real. You know, then he's scared of what's going to happen on the streets if he's known for snitching and testifying in court. And so that's when I knew like they didn't have nothing on me, because the person that wanted to snitch doesn't want to snitch anymore. When they kicked in my door looking for all these drugs, all these everything that they had information that I had, I didn't have it, because when I went to bed, I no longer had the stuff. All I had was possession. It wasn't bagged. It was just something on a plate. There was scales, but nothing was on it. No residue, none of that stuff. And whenever they looked through the money from when the guy that snitched on me came and did the deal that night, the night before that morning, they gave him marked bills. Well, whenever they came into the house and they seized all the money and they looked through all that money, none of the money was marked. None of it. I went to PLS and I washed all the money. So thank goodness for that, because that would have been proof enough right there that I was selling it. You know what I mean? That would have been enough proof, because it would have been like, how did you get these marked bills? You know? How did he come out this house? He's the one that had the money. He came out the house with drugs that he gave to us, and you have the marked bills. That would have been it for me. You know, but I didn't have any marked bills. And then they have the nerve to go, the lawyer of my ex goes up to him and pulls him away from me. But mind you, we're still in the same hallway. Pulls him away from me, and they tell him, if you testify against your baby mama, we'll only give you 2 years for the felon with the firearm, and when you're close to a school zone, you know, felon with the firearm, and possession in a drug-free zone. Plus, he already had a bunch of priors, so he was facing a lot more time than I was. That's why I was trying to take the gun charge from him. They told him, if you testify against her, we'll give you 2 years. What? And I turned around when I heard that so fast. I turned around so fast, and he turns around and looks at me. At the same time, like his face, his eyebrows, it was like getting ready to ask me. And before he could even ask me, I was like, don't even fix your lips. Don't even fix your lips to ask me. Like, how could you ask me, can you do that? Can you testify against me? Right now, they have nothing against me, and I can plead with them. We can bargain with each other, so I can get less time, possibly do no time. Just depends. It was my first felony, and it's like, don't even fix your lips. Like, I was baffled. I was like in shock. I was like, how could you? And my mom looked at him, because my mom and my grandmother were there. My mom looked at him like, boy, you will be running for the rest of your life. Mind you, when you get out of jail, you will be running even more. My mother was a little bit crazy. She was just as crazy as I was. But she pretty much threatened him in front of the lawyers, you know, in the courthouse. She threatened him that he would be running for the rest of his life, not from the police, but from her and whoever else. And he was like, "No, I wasn't even gonna ask. I wasn't gonna ask. You know damn well you was gonna ask me." Like, he's like, "I was not even gonna ask," and this and that, and so that was dropped. It wasn't nothing. We knew that they didn't have a case against us. All they had was, hey, a possession charge that we can probably get lowered down to. I forgot what it was. Anyways, so whenever we leave and we come back and for another court date, we come back to sign for a time. Okay, we come back to sign for a time. We come to an agreement, and what we finally decided, what we agreed on was for me, it was gonna be 6 months state jail, even though it was a mandatory minimum of 2 years TDC, not state jail, of prison instead of state jail. It's a mandatory minimum, but I got them to bring it down to 6 months, 180 days state jail for just the possession. They dropped the drug-free zone because the drug-free zone makes it aggravated, which made it go up to a prison 2 to 10 instead. But I got them to drop that to the 180, and my son's father was going to get 2 years prison TDC. 2 years. He could get out before on parole if he wanted to. But when we're walking up the stairs, he looks at me and he's like, I can already tell what he was going to tell me. And he told me, I'm not going in. I'm just came with you to say bye to you. And so I gave him a bunch of money because, mind you, I was already hustling again. I made sure I had enough money to take with me. I even took some other stuff with me that I shouldn't have had. But I gave him a bunch of money. I gave him a bunch of drugs. And I'm like, okay, just be careful. Make sure you put money on my books. Give him the phones and everything. He has all my contacts and everything, so he could have continued to make money. But of course, he's an addict. Also, he had addiction to crack as well. So he was smoking crack and doing heroin, which those things are, crack is one of the worst things you can do because that will cause you to spend all your money, do the craziest things. I feel like it's even worse than heroin for some reason. I just do. I've never been a fan. It's just, no, it's just a money waster, and you're never happy. You never get satisfied on that stuff. But so he does all the drugs. He spends all the money on crack. Gets the phone cut off. Don't put no money on my book. Like, who was already? And then he ends up. He's on the run the whole time, and yeah, no, I didn't get a letter from him for like, I don't remember how long. It was a long time until I got a letter from him. But so that's what happened. And what's crazy is when I was already about to get out of state jail after about to be done with my state jail sentence, I get a letter from a lawyer. I think it was a lawyer or the court. I don't remember who sent it. It was an official letter saying that I was going to be sent back to county. And I was freaking out. I was so upset because I was like, what? They wanted to charge me with money laundering because I didn't have the money. They knew that I was washing the money because I didn't have any marked bills. And so I wrote my lawyer and I told them, I asked them what was going on. Why all of a sudden now do they want to charge me with money laundering? I've already been here for almost 6 months. Why are they just now waiting to charge me with this? You know, the case should have already been closed. It should be done. We have already came to our plea agreements and everything. And then he wrote me back and he was like, well, what they said was, I talked to them and they said if you let them keep everything, all the money, all the things that they seize, that they won't file any charges on you. I was like, what? That money's already gone. I wasn't gonna fight for that money. Like, why would I fight for that money? I've never even brought it back up. That money's been long gone. And I said, of course. So he sends me the paperwork and everything. And so it's dropped. The charges is dropped. So it was a roller coaster. It was a huge roller coaster. That whole time it was like I thought I was good, and then I get a letter saying I'm going back to county. I'm catching a new charge. This is money laundering. Like, you know how bad money laundering can be? Like, it was a serious charge. I was flipping out because I had just turned, I think it was right before my birthday too, right before I was turning 20. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, it was right before I was gonna turn 20. So I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna be home for my birthday and this and that, and then they tell me about the new charge. I'm like, oh no, oh hell no. I ended up leaving from state jail out of seg, and they put me in segregation because I was fighting. I was doing too much. I was doing too much. I left from seg, and even the guards are like, we're so happy to see you gone. Like, do not come back. If you come back, the first place you're going is segregation. I've spent my first month in seg because I was withdrawing so bad because I had took drugs with me in somewhere I'm not supposed to take drugs with me. So I spent a month in segregation when I got there. Segregation will make you lose your damn mind, especially withdrawing. And then I spent the last month also in segregation because I was going crazy. So that's the story. And fucking stay in school, you guys. Like, I dropped out of my high school and went to another high school because I was selling drugs at school. You know, whenever I was 17, I was selling drugs at school, and they knew I was fucked up all the time. I had the best grades. I was the A+ student, but it was actually a 3.9 GPA. But that doesn't matter whenever you're messing up. If you're gonna go to jail, that doesn't matter. You know. But when my mom got out of prison, I told her to take me out of high school because they told me if they catch me one more time or if I don't go to rehab, that they're kicking me out or they're gonna get the police to come get me. So I made my mom take me out of school. I ended up going to another school where I graduated very quickly, and then after I graduate from there, and then whenever I go to state jail, when you go to state jail, you have to get your GED. Everybody has to get their GED. I was like, oh, I already got my diploma. What? You know, I already got it. I got it when I was 17. Come to find out, it's not even an accredited school. Like, it's not even considered this. It's not accepted. So we paid all that money for nothing. I did all of that for nothing when I was younger. And I ended up getting my GED inside state jail. I got my GED. I didn't have to go to no classes or anything because the test you take before your GED to see where you're at, what level you're at, I scored so high on it that I didn't have to take any of the classes. Whenever everybody was done studying, I got to take the final exam. I took the pre-exam and then I took the final exam, and I passed it without going to any classes, which it wasn't an accomplishment for me because I was like, technically I graduated, but I didn't graduated. But stay in school. Stay away from drugs. You know, you think it's not gonna get bad. It gets bad. It gets bad. And I'm sorry, you guys, I'm so sick and I look a mess. And I don't know why I decided to do this video while I'm so freaking sick. But I feel like there's never gonna be a good time. I'm either gonna be too busy, I'm gonna be sick, I'm gonna Like, my baby's gonna be running around screaming and happy and playing and everything, you know, like, there's never gonna be a good time. I hate doing long form videos because I hate having to edit them and listen back to them and look at myself when I'm editing them. So I'm probably not even gonna edit this. It's just gonna go out like this. I hope y'all like it. And if y'all don't, I'm sorry, and I 100% understand because I'm super sick. But you guys have a good day. Bye. And like and subscribe, please. Thank you. Bye.